Hello, and welcome to this news event held by Sweeney Merrigan Law. You'll be hearing from four speakers today, and then we'll open the floor for questions during the Q&A period. For more info, you can go to sweeneymerrigan.com, where you can find the complaint, exhibits, including photos and even video, and also the related news release. Let's go ahead and begin with our first speaker, Tucker Merrigan, Managing Partner at Sweeney Merrigan. Go ahead, Tucker.
Thank you. Thank you for joining this news event. My name is Tucker Merrigan, and I am a co-managing partner at Sweeney Merrigan. This morning, on behalf of the Sharrigan family, Carol, Ethan, and Jason, we filed a lawsuit against Eversource Energy in Middlesex Superior Court. Before you hear from the Sharrigans, I'm going to talk a little bit about the natural gas explosion that killed Greg Sharrigan on September 2nd, 2021, and highlight a few important points from the lawsuit. As you will read in the complaint and we will discuss today, this tragedy was caused by Eversource policies that prioritized company profits over public safety, coupled with a series of systemic failures leading to a preventable tragedy. That tragedy was a massive, earth-shattering natural gas explosion that destroyed the Sharrigan's home in Maynard, Massachusetts. The force of the blast blew the windows into the street, engulfed the house in flames, and killed Greg Sharrigan, who was inside. The spark that caused this explosion was the simple act of turning on a light. In the weeks that followed, it was determined that the sole cause of the gas explosion was due to an underground leak that came from a failed coupling on a corroded pipe in the street, owned and operated by Eversource. In the aftermath of the explosion, that pipe was extracted and tested, and it has been concluded without question that it was Eversource's failed gas line and coupling that caused the Sharrigan home to explode, resulting in Greg Sharrigan's death. How could Eversource have let this failure occur? Investigations have led to several failures, but in speaking to you today, I will focus on two. The first failure is Eversource's systemic disorganization in tracking dangerous gas leaks. They have no idea which leaks exist, which leaks need repair, and which leaks are dangerous. Let me explain with regard to the leaks that existed in the Sharrigan neighborhood before this explosion ever occurred. Remember, it was an underground leak that caused Mr. Sharrigan to die when his home exploded. According to Eversource, they identified several leaks in the Sharrigan neighborhood in the years from 2018 to 2020, just before the 2021 explosion. This includes an underground leak approximately 40 feet from the Sharrigan's home in 2018. What did Eversource do upon this discovery? They did not assign this leak, this underground leak, its own leak number as required by their own leak safety tracking system. They confused this leak with a different leak. Their records marked these two leaks in the wrong location. They maintained leak records in this neighborhood that were inconsistent, unclear, and illegible. They were totally confused as what leaks exist and what leaks needed to be repaired. It follows that when we discuss safety system failures, these are the telltale red flag signs that come before a preventable tragedy. Now I will discuss the second major system failure of this case, and perhaps Eversource's most despicable. It is their glaring practice of profits over safety. Their safety formula contemplates money, it prioritizes money, and I will explain it to you right now. Eversource has a federal legal obligation to track and identify pipes that need repair due to dangerous leaks. To satisfy this obligation, they created a formula. That formula is predicated on cost-saving measures, factors that have nothing to do with tracking natural gas pipes that leak. Simply put, their system willfully and grossly neglects safety. Eversource's internal system decided to repair only the least expensive leaks and not the most dangerous. They are willing to accept the inherent risk of gas leaks and explosions, just like the one that caused the death of Greg Sharrigan. They do this to protect their bottom line, to protect their profits. This isn't just lawyer advocacy. I implore you to review the materials we've provided, review the complaint, and review the various investigative reports. We aren't the only ones who share this concern. The Department of Public Utilities has also investigated this case. As a result, they have completed one of the most damning investigations of a public utility in Massachusetts history for the explosion that caused Greg Sharrigan's death. In doing so, they stated their concern is that Eversource's internal system for monitoring and repairing leaks, the exact system I have been speaking about today, the DPU states that that system is, I quote, cost-based and unrelated to the factors that would indicate the presence of a corroding, decaying, and leaking pipe. This is a public company that profits over $1 billion a year, not revenue, profits. And they have built a system that factors money to silence the safety alarm bells to do their most important job, monitor and repair a leaking gas pipe. In an effort to scale and grow this utility business, Eversource CEO William Ackley has promised Massachusetts, and I quote, that natural gas is by far one of the safest means of energy available. In the face of the Columbia gas explosions, which occurred just a few years prior to this one, he assured Massachusetts citizens there are a lot more checks and balances in place to prevent that from happening again. Well, here we are. In the face of that statement, we have another major preventable natural gas explosion. Why does Eversource have money baked into its safety formula? Those are just two of the many egregious and painful errors that took a beloved, caring, salt-of-the-earth man from his family. What does Eversource have to say about this? It's an isolated incident. This is not reflective of their business or their job, but that's simply not true. They have had incident after incident of utility explosions involving electricity and gas throughout New England in the last 2 years alone. The Sharrigans had no choice in their gas supplier. They have no choice in the rates they pay to heat their home. The Sharrigans had no role in the maintenance of the gas pipes outside their home. They had no knowledge of the multiple gas leaks that Eversource identified in their neighborhood in the years before. As a community here in Massachusetts, we trust companies like Eversource to safely provide the utilities that we all need to live and survive. Eversource made deliberate decisions to take advantage of that trust for a profit. These decisions betray our entire community, and in this case, no one more so than Greg Sharrigan, his wife Carol, and his two sons, Jason and Ethan. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thanks, Tucker. Again, that was Tucker Merrigan, managing partner at Sweeney Merrigan. Let's go to our second speaker, Carol Sharrigan, widow of Greg Sharrigan.
My name is Carol Sharrigan. I'm Greg Sharrigan's wife and the mother of Ethan and Jason Sharrigan. Public speaking has always been difficult for me, but it's important that I speak up about the loss of the love of my life and my best friend. Greg lived life to the fullest. He loved speed, whether it was on his skis, his sled, or his motorcycle. We enjoyed travel, cooking together, and we loved hosting gatherings for our family and friends. We were looking forward to the arrival of our first grandchild. Greg was outgoing and always available when someone needed help. Since we lost him, I have been amazed by how many lives he touched. This all went away nearly 3 years ago when he dropped me off at work and kissed me goodbye for the last time. What Eversource did is really hard for me to talk about, and the pain they caused is truly unspeakable. Nothing can ever fix this, but I hope by raising my voice, I can prevent this from ever happening again. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Again, that was Carol Sharrigan. Let's go to our third speaker, Jason Sharrigan, younger son of Greg Sharrigan.
My name is Jason Sharrigan, and I'm here to speak about my father, Greg Sharrigan. I'm here with my mother, Carol. and my brother Ethan. We all knew different sides of my father, and it's humbling to be speaking for the family. But more than anything, I'm happy to be here as a family. I love you both so much, and I hope Dad would be proud to see us here together. My dad was the man I aspired to become, and he still is. He taught me and he showed me what it means to be a good person, and I know I wasn't alone in feeling this way. Everyone in our neighborhood, everyone who worked with him, everyone knew his generosity. They knew that if they needed help, Greg Sharrigan would drop whatever he was doing and be there, no question, no hesitation. He never expected thanks. He was just there to help. He might give you some guff about it, but I never saw him hesitate to do the right thing, not for a second. It's silly to give examples because there are too many. Once he saved the life of a friend of his at a job site. His friend injured his finger and passed out from the shock. Hit his head on the concrete floor, and my dad took care of him, saw that he'd injured his head, and convinced his friend to go to the hospital. My dad convinced him by making him get in the car and driving him there. It turned out that he had internal bleeding and he would have died. My dad was credited with saving his friend's life that day. I don't think my dad would have liked this story because to him it was just a work day. And it was just a matter of course. Of course you do the right thing. He might not have always been the most gentle about it, and he would definitely let you know if he thought you were in the wrong. But he was full of love and overflowing with energy to do good for the people around him. On September 2nd, 2021, my house exploded, and it could have been any house in the neighborhood. And my dad would have been the first person there to help. But it was my house, and it was our house, and my father was inside. We lost our dad, and the community lost a great man. This is what Eversource took from us and what they could take from anyone. My father, Greg Sharrigan, was a man who cared for others more than himself. It's in his spirit that we're here to make sure this doesn't happen to any other family. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Again, that was Jason Sharrigan, younger son of Greg Sharrigan. Let's go to our fourth and final speaker, Ethan Sharrigan, older son of Greg Sharrigan. Go ahead, Ethan.
My name is Ethan Sharrigan. As you know, my father was killed almost 3 years ago, but in a lot of ways, we are still trying to process it. My father was a commercial journeyman electrician with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and he worked out of Local 103 in Dorchester for over 45 years. I remember how hard my father worked when I was growing up, but I also remember how involved he was in our lives. He served as a scouting volunteer and leader for both me and my brother from the time we joined the Cub Scouts all the way through our time in the Boy Scouts. And both of us have so many great memories of scouting activities with him. He semi-retired in 2008, but as anyone who knew my father could tell you, he was always working on something. He was always busy. He still kept up with the electrical code. He maintained all his certifications. And he was always willing to lend a hand to a neighbor or a friend in need. I remember the last time I saw my father, my wife was 5 months pregnant. We were doing a video call with my parents to tell them the great news that they were going to have a granddaughter soon. My father joked that we had better make room in the driveway because he was going to buy an RV and live outside our house after she was born. The next week, he was gone. This is the hardest thing our family has ever gone through, but the community has rallied around us. Hundreds of people came to my father's memorial, and some were people I barely knew, but they told me about how my father had impacted their lives and that they would do whatever they could to help us. It was a beautiful moment that I'm truly thankful for. But it doesn't change the fact that the Eversource disaster left a gaping hole in our family that can never be filled. My daughter is almost 3 now. She was born almost exactly 3 months after that terrible day. And I still don't know how I will explain any of this to her or how this ever could have happened. Thank you to everyone who joined us to listen to our story today. I feel like even now my father has an opportunity to continue helping other people through us, sharing what we've been through and demanding that this never happen again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. Again, that was Ethan Sharrigan, older son of Greg Sharrigan. And that takes us to the Q&A portion of the call. For the Q&A period, we'll be joined by Peter Merrigan, co-managing partner at Sweeney Merrigan. And the first question, it looks like, comes from Julie Manganus, sorry if I mispronounced your last name, of Law 360. Julie, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, hi. Thanks for taking the question. I'm curious whether your firm has handled any of these, any similar cases in the last several years.
Yes, we've had more than one case and more than one explosion case involving Eversource that we are currently investigating and preparing for the possibility of litigation.
Okay, so nothing's been filed, but this one has been, and you're pursuing potential other claims against Eversource for other incidents?
We have one significant injury case, and we have one property damage matter that we are reviewing.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Our next question is going to come from Mike Sullivan at CBS Boston. Mike, please unmute yourself. Go ahead, Mike.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Usually there's a little unmute button on the bottom, so I couldn't find it to know where to go.
No worries.
I know in part of your press release that was sent out earlier, you had a long list of other places where there are leaks and et cetera. Can you maybe take us through some of those?
Yes, there's a lot of leaks. There's a lot of leaks and events that are tracked on the DPU records page. Many of the leaks and the events that occurred involved manhole explosions, which involve oftentimes electrical failures, but which the electrical failure coupled with the exposure to the gas below the surface, which Eversource and in our review is a key player in each one of those stories.
And one other question, you had mentioned kind of in their response, calling it a one-off incident. What is your response to that?
This is not a one-off incident. And there were, as I indicated, many red flag moments to demonstrate that this isn't the first time that this has happened and likely not the last.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Tucker. And while we're waiting to see if we have any final questions, I'd like to invite Tucker and Pete to give any closing remarks that they might have.
Well, thank you. Pete Merrigan, co-managing partner at Sweeney Merrigan. And I would add that what happened here is just truly unimaginable and unimaginable for the Sharrigans. And we're really hoping to achieve a couple things with this lawsuit. First and foremost, this is about honoring Greg Sharrigan. It's about advocating for who he was, the father, the husband he was to Jason, Ethan, and Carol. But it's also about making sure this doesn't happen again. And for us to do that through our lawsuit, Eversource will need to do a few things. They will need to first acknowledge what happened and acknowledge that this was not, in fact, a one-off incident. They will need to take responsibility and accountability for what happened and then make it right and make it right to the Sharrigans. And only when that happens will the Sharrigans see that there is justice here. And importantly, they will know that this is not going to happen to someone else. They call it a one-off incident, and yet it's an error that is continually repeated. And it's an error that's been repeated through a formula and a scheme that they created, focusing on profits over risks and dangers. And so that repeated error is not an error, it's a decision. And it's a decision that they have made. And that's what this lawsuit is about. And we really appreciate you all for being here.
Thanks, Pete. All right. I'll give a little bit of time for any last minute questions here while I repeat a little bit of information. I'll repeat my phone number in case anyone wants to connect later today in the wake of this news event. I appreciate some folks prefer to take their questions offline. You can connect with Max Carlin, 703-276-3255, or email me. I think a lot of you have heard from me already. I'm going to thank everybody for joining this news event held by Sweeney Merrigan Law, and that will conclude today's news event. We appreciate you all for participating. Thank you.